on my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
ظل واقف، استمع إلى قرار المحكمة واقفا.
اسمع القرارات.
إيه واقفا، كن واقفا.
لا قاعد.
أوقف، وقفوا.
He was then given this scarf to be tied around his neck, for the rope to be tied around that, and an indication that he faced his final moments with some bravery.
What kind of man writes the Quran in his own blood and then uses chemical weapons against his own people? Was he a revolutionary who challenged the West, or a brutal tyrant who crushed anyone who stood in his way? Saddam Hussein, a name that still echoes across the world, in anger, admiration, and confusion. Decades after his death, the world still can't decide, was he a hero or a monster? Saddam's story doesn't begin with palaces or power. It begins in poverty, in a tiny village called Halabja near Tikrit, Iraq. Born in 1937, his childhood was anything but easy. His father died before he was born, his mother remarried, and his stepfather was harsh, violent even. By the 1950s, Saddam had had enough. He left Halabja and made his way to Baghdad to live with his maternal uncle, a man who would shape his destiny more than anyone else. Khair al-Talfa wasn't just family. He was a radical thinker, a former army officer, and a fierce believer in Arab nationalism. He believed Iraq should be free from Western influence, that Arabs should unite under a single identity, strong, sovereign, socialist. Saddam absorbed those ideas like oxygen. In 1959, just 22 years old, Saddam made his first move into the world of power politics, not with speeches, but with bullets. He joined a Ba'athist assassination squad. Their mission? Kill Iraq's Prime Minister, Abdul Karim Qasim, a man seen as too close to the Soviets. The plan was bold. The execution? Chaotic. As Qasim's car passed through Baghdad, gunfire erupted. Screams filled the air. Qasim was hit, but survived. Saddam took a bullet to the leg and fled, bleeding, limping, barely alive. He escaped to Egypt, protected by Nasser's regime. In Cairo, he studied law. The 1960s were a storm in Iraq. Coups came and went. Leaders fell. New ones rose. And through it all, Saddam waited. By 1968, when the Ba'ath Party seized control, he wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the quiet force behind the curtain. He didn't become president that day, but don't be fooled. He controlled the intelligence agencies, the military, the whispers in the shadows. He was building something, a shadow empire. Then came 1979. President al-Bakr resigned, and Saddam stepped forward, and Iraq would never be the same. Days later, he summoned top Ba'ath officials to a televised meeting. One by one, he called the traitors. They were dragged out screaming. Some were executed, others disappeared. It was a message. He wasn't asking for loyalty, he was demanding it. At first, he built. Flush with oil money, Iraq flourished. Roads, schools, hospital, electricity, even in villages. Literacy soared. Women studied. In Arab capitals, his face was everywhere. Posters, murals, chants. To many people, Saddam was a symbol of Arab pride. But behind the pride was paranoia. Opposition vanished. Dissent wasn't debated. It was silenced. Then came his greatest miscalculation. 1980 Iran, fresh from revolution, unstable, vulnerable. Saddam saw opportunity. He feared Iran's Shia ideology might spread. He wanted to dominate the Gulf, and he wanted revenge. So, he struck. September 22, 1980, Iraqi forces invaded Iran. Tanks rolled, jets roared. Saddam promised it would be over in weeks. But Iran didn't fall. It fought back, fiercely. What followed was an 8-year nightmare. A trench war, a chemical war. Saddam deployed mustard gas, nerve agents, not just against Iranian soldiers, but his own Kurdish civilians. By 1988, more than 1 million people were dead. Cities reduced to rubble. Iraq was bankrupt. But Saddam couldn't afford to look weak. He needed someone else to blame. Another war, another enemy. He found it in Kuwait. Saddam accused them of stealing oil, driving prices down, destroying Iraq's economy. But under the surface, it was greed. Kuwait was oil-rich, and Saddam wanted it. So on August 2nd, 1990, he invaded. In 2 days, he took Kuwait, declared it as Iraq's 19th province. But this time, the world didn't stay silent. The UN condemned him. A coalition of 30-plus nations formed, led by the US, and when Saddam refused to withdraw, Operation Desert Storm began. He lost badly, but he stayed in power. In 1997, in the middle of economic collapse and sanctions, Saddam did something unthinkable. He had the Quran written in his own blood. Over 27 leaders donated over 2 years. A calligrapher inscribed all 605 pages. To some, it was devotion. To others, blasphemy. He wrote novels. His most famous, Zabiba and the King, a love story many saw as a metaphor for Saddam and Iraq. He decorated Baghdad with statues. He saw himself as more than a leader, a poet, a protector, a visionary. But those same hands that penned poetry signed orders that destroyed lives. In 2003, the US invaded Iraq again, this time claiming Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. None were ever found. But the war went on, and Saddam vanished until December 2003, when he was found hiding in a hole near Tikrit, disheveled, exhausted, powerless. He was tried in 2005, sentenced to death, and on December 30th, 2006, he was hanged. His final words, Allahu Akbar. His final image, calm, unshaken, defiant. But the story didn't end there, because after Saddam's fall came chaos, sectarian violence, civil war, Al-Qaeda, and eventually ISIS. Iraq burned. And now, many Iraqis, even those who once feared him, say they miss the order, the stability, even the fear. Because in the silence after war, fear is sometimes remembered as peace. So who was Saddam Hussein? A visionary or a villain? A tyrant or a patriot? The truth is, he was both. What do you think? Was Saddam Hussein a revolutionary or a ruthless dictator? Tell us in the comments.